Hi there, my name is Josh Trujillo. I'm a writer and comic book creator based out of Los Angeles, and I'm going to be reading my piece, It's Still Roy Cohn's World, and You're Living in It, the rotten legacy of the Red Scare proponent, corrupt lawyer, and mentor to Donald Trump. This was originally created for thenib.com with artist Levi Hastings. Meet Roy Cohn. I bring out the worst in my enemies, and that's how I get them to defeat themselves. The most despised gay man in American history, and mentor to one Donald J. Trump. Cohn's legal career ran rampant through America's 20th century. He stoked public fears against communists, people of color, homosexuals, and anyone else who got in his way. I don't write polite letters. I don't like to plea bargain. I like to fight. Roy Cohn didn't invent hatred. He was just very adept at wielding hate to serve himself. The son of a Jewish New York Supreme Court justice, Roy Cohn grew up in a Democratic household during the Great Depression. As a teen, he applauded the New Deal reforms of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, despite conservatives' claims that they were unconstitutional. FDR made policies believing that the court of public opinion mattered just as much as the rule of law. Cohn watched carefully and began plotting his own rise to power. Bright and well-connected, Roy became a lawyer at the age of 21 and was hired as an assistant United States attorney in Manhattan. This position would put him at the forefront of American politics. At the height of the Cold War, politicians stoked fears of communist infiltration in the American public. People were scared into conformity, as any kind of deviant behavior might raise suspicions of communist ties or sympathies. As a gay man, Roy Cohn could have been targeted too. He wasn't. Despite plenty of deviant behavior, Roy did not consider himself a homosexual. But was this view the result of self-denial, self-loathing, or self-defense? Cohn was raised in a privileged world where everyone had secrets, and loyalty was what mattered most. Roy's first and only priority was looking out for himself. In 1950, Cohn had helped prosecute over a dozen suspected communists. His trials were widely reported in the press, and Cohn frequently paraded around beautiful women to avoid suspicion of his homosexuality. But this fame was nothing compared to what would follow. In 1951, Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were charged with espionage by the Southern District of New York. The husband and wife, Jewish New Yorkers who were American citizens, were accused of stealing nuclear secrets for the Soviets. With a sympathetic ear in Judge Irving Kaufman, Cohn pushed witnesses to include false details in their testimony to implicate Ethel in her husband's charges. Even so, the prosecution still lacked strong evidence to prove their case. Cohn relied on his prosecutorial skills to win over the court, earning him the praise of the media. By the end of the trial, Roy Cohn was known throughout the country, and the Rosenbergs were executed. Soon Cohn was working under Senator Joseph McCarthy, an outspoken anti-communist. Together, they laid a very public crusade to ferret out communists and grab as many headlines as possible. Ironically, McCarthy and Cohn focused on homosexuals working within the United States government, saying they had weak moral character and could be blackmailed into working for the Soviets. There is no evidence that any blackmail ever actually happened, yet hundreds of suspected homosexuals lost their careers as a result. This lavender scare would later incite the first gay rights protests in the United States. Cohn had grown more confident and was living a semi-public life as a homosexual at the time. None of the elites that surrounded himself with dared challenge him. People who angered Roy Cohn risked putting themselves in his legal crosshairs. McCarthy's divisive, unethical politics fell out of favor with establishment Republicans, so Roy returned to New York City to practice law. His powerful new clients loved having McCarthy's pitbull on their side. They helped make sure the media didn't report on Roy's constant young, blonde male companions. I don't want to know what the law is. I want to know who the judge is. He was a fixer, and a damn good one at that. Perjury, witness tampering, falsifying evidence, threats, there was no line that Roy Cohn wouldn't cross for his clients. In 1973, Cohn first defended Donald Trump. The Justice Department sued Trump for violating the Fair Housing Act by denying apartments to African American tenants in 39 properties. Cohn punched back, and bigly. He filed a $100 million countersuit, ultimately leading to an out-of-court settlement, which Trump later violated. This impressed Trump, who came to see Cohn as something of a mentor. Cohn's politics had shifted to the far right over his life. He became a close advisor to then Governor Ronald Reagan and fledgling Australian media mogul Rupert Murdoch, introducing the latter to Donald Trump. Roger Stone, a former aide to Nixon, worked with Cohn to bribe officials in order to help Reagan's 1980 presidential campaign. Stone later helped convince Trump to run for president, worked on his campaign, and was indicted by the Justice Department. Ultimately, Cohn's unethical behavior would catch up with him. He owed the government millions in unpaid taxes and faced many legal challenges as a result of his shady lawyering. Then, in 1984, at the age of 57, Roy Cohn was diagnosed with the AIDS virus. He blamed his deteriorating condition on cancer. Cohn still vehemently denied to the public that he was gay. Many were demonizing AIDS in the same way that Cohn had demonized homosexuality in the 1950s. Were he not suffering from the disease himself, Cohn probably would have been doing the same thing. With only months to live, Cohn was finally disbarred and lost his ability to practice law. Roy's political connections afforded him the best medical treatment in the world, but the AIDS prognosis scared away many of his closest allies, including Trump. Like Rock Hudson, Liberace, and countless others suffering from AIDS, Cohn would die in the closet. Since his death, Cohn has been vilified for his hypocrisy and cowardice in regards to the gay community and the AIDS crisis. To many young lawyers, his is a cautionary tale. Still, Cohn's toxic legacy lives on in our media landscape, in our courts, and in the White House. Thank you.